Anna stood back and surveyed her handiwork under the pale glow of an early morning street lamp. Last night, her brushes had danced across the expanse of crumbling brick, layering bursts of tangerine, cobalt, and emerald until the surface seemed to pulse with energy. The mural depicted winding rivers irrigating barren fields, silhouettes of city rooftops reaching toward a sky ablaze with sunrise. To Anna, the wall was more than pigment and plaster. Each stroke was a declaration that creativity could transcend decay, that beauty could emerge when no one expected it. At dawn, she wiped flecks of paint from her palms and packed away her tools. A chill in the air raised goosebumps on her arms as she climbed down from the makeshift scaffolding and stepped onto the cracked sidewalk. The neighborhood was waking. A newspaper vendor flipped open his stand. The aroma of fresh pastries drifted from a nearby bakery, and an elderly man in a wool cap shuffled past, his eyes scanning the street. She held her breath, waiting for approving nods or curious smiles. Instead, she saw phones raised and camera shutters clicking. Two teenagers leaned against a parked car, filming her with amused grins. Around the corner, a cluster of office workers murmured behind coffee cups, eyebrows raised in disapproval. One woman, her lips pursed, tapped a photo to send in a group chat. An older gentleman, white hair gleaming in the morning sun, peered through thick spectacles and muttered something about mindless vandalism. Anna felt a knot tighten in her chest. She reminded herself why she had chosen this wall, an abandoned store that no one cared to restore, a silent witness to neighborhood neglect. She believed art could breathe new life into forgotten spaces, but the faces before her reflected skepticism and anger rather than wonder. By mid-morning, social media lit up with heated debate. A local news blog published an article headlined, "Street Mural Sparks Controversy," contrasting Anna's optimistic vision with quotes from outraged residents. Comments flooded in. Some applauded her courage. Others labeled her work a defacement. The city's unofficial aesthetic committee, a group of self-appointed guardians of taste, posted sarcastic memes overlaying her rivers with slime trails. With each disparaging post, Anna felt her resolve waver. Doubt whispered that she had overstepped, that her art belonged in galleries, not on public walls. Yet as she pressed her hand against the cool brick, she recalled the first time she discovered graffiti, vibrant tags behind her childhood school, hidden messages that spoke of freedom and belonging. She had fallen in love with its raw honesty. Anna squared her shoulders and lifted her chin. This was exactly the reaction she had hoped to provoke. A conversation about art, ownership, and community. The cold stares and critical headlines signaled that her mural had already broken through the noise. She pulled out her phone and snapped a photo of the wall bathed in the morning sun, then sent it to her fellow artists. This was only the beginning. Soon the city would learn her name. But first, she needed to stand firm against the rising tide of disapproval and show everyone that her vision was worth the risk. Before dawn had fully retreated, Anna received a crisp envelope stamped with the city seal. The weight of the paper felt ominous as she slit it open, revealing an official summons to the municipal building. By mid-morning, she found herself standing in a marble-clad hallway, her paint-splattered jeans and hoodie starkly out of place among the polished shoes and tailored suits striding purposefully around her. The waiting area buzzed with hushed conversations about zoning regulations and property rights. But for Anna, only her own heartbeat echoed in her ears. Inside the council chamber, rows of benches curved around a semicircular dais where the city council members presided. Portraits of past mayors looked down from wood-paneled walls, their painted eyes solemn. Anna took a tentative step forward as the clerk read her name, motioning her to take the lone chair before the panel. Microphones loomed above her like steel vines, and a projector screen flickered with a slideshow titled "Preserving Civic Aesthetics." One by one, council members rose to deliver their statements. A stern-faced alderman accused the mural of disrupting the historical character of the district, calling it unauthorized signage and visual pollution. Another councilwoman spoke of countless complaints filed by shop owners who argued that the vibrant imagery clashed with the muted brick facades of their storefronts. Each critique landed like a hammer strike, chipping away at Anna's conviction. When her turn came, Anna rose, her palms damp against the lectern's cold wood. She spoke of her intention to revitalize a neglected corner of the city, to spark dialogue and inspire hope through color. She described the rivers flowing across the brick as symbols of renewal and community, but her words seemed to ricochet off the marble, absorbed by bureaucracy rather than the hearts she hoped to move. Minutes later, the council voted unanimously to demand removal of the mural within 14 days, under threat of fines 3 times her initial project cost and possible legal action for trespassing. The chairman's gavel fell with finality, and the chamber fell silent save for the scratch of pens on notepads. Anna gathered her courage and asked if there might be an appeal process or community review. The chairman replied curtly that channels exist, but offered no guarantee of rehearing. The clerk ushered her outside, handing her a formal notice that felt more like a verdict. Immediate abatement required, or face civil penalties. Huddled in the lobby, Anna could barely steady herself. The gravity of the decree pressed against her lungs, each breath tasting of acrid fear. Her mural, her voice, her passion had been branded a crime. She remembered the radiant sunrise she had painted, imagined it now obscured by a thick veil of erasure. Outside the building, the spring sun felt harsh and indifferent. Reporters from the local paper jostled for comments, cameras flashing as they asked for Anna's reaction. She managed a composed statement. She respected the council's decision, but hoped the city would come to see art as an asset, not a liability. Her words, though steady, felt small compared to the tidal wave of official condemnation. That afternoon, she returned to the mural site. The wall shivered under the weight of her silence. A municipal notice had been affixed to one corner, its bold letters instructing passers-by that public safety and community standards mandate removal. Neighbors peered through dusty windows, some with sympathy, others with scorn. Anna placed her palm on the brick once more. Beneath the cascade of color, she sensed the flicker of a new determination. If the city would not embrace her vision willingly, she would find a way to make them reckon with it. The battle lines had been drawn, and in the crucible of official opposition, Anna's resolve had never burned brighter. Long after the streetlights blinked on and the last tram rumbled past, Anna slipped out of her apartment with a single aim: to reclaim her mural before it vanished forever. The city had gone to bed believing she would comply with the council's decree, erase the riot of colour she had poured onto that crumbling wall. But Anna moved like a shadow, wrapped in a threadbare jacket that smelled of turpentine and resolve, clutching a battered bucket of midnight blue paint and a handful of brushes. She reached the abandoned storefront just past midnight. The municipal notice glowed under the sodium lamp, a stark white blot against her sunrise scene. Every square foot of that bold composition had been deemed illegal, destined for removal by morning. Anna crouched beside the notice, ripped it down with a sharp tug, and let it flutter to the cracked pavement. Her heart hammered in her ears. But she took a steadying breath and dipped a wide brush into the blue paint. Her movements were swift and deliberate. Where the council saw defacement, Anna saw a canvas begging for dialogue. She began by tracing the outlines of the river that once curled across the brick, reapplying deep indigo over the pale letters of the notice. Each stroke layered fresh pigment over the council's whitewash, reclaiming the wall inch by inch. Behind her, the city slept. Ahead of her, every rooftop and lamppost stood witness. And she paused, lifted a smaller brush, and wrote in crisp, looping letters along the newly painted bank of the river. Art is the pulse of our streets. She stepped back, heart swelling, as the phrase glowed like a beacon in the muted night. A sudden click echoed. The shutter of a hidden camera. In the shadows, one of her fellow artists had captured every move for the world to see. By the time Anna packed away her brushes, a handful of midnight commuters had paused to stare. A cyclist slowed, headlamp illuminating her work. A lone jogger skirted the pavement, phone raised, filming the refreshed mural. Within minutes, the footage streamed to social media. Grainy at first, then popping with colour as users adjusted their screens. She's back, they wrote, and she's stronger than ever. Anna watched that spark of rebellion spread across the digital map, lighting up hearts in every borough. The night had not silenced her voice. It had amplified it. As dawn approached, she retreated into the dark, leaving behind a wall that no longer belonged to the council, but to every citizen who believed that creativity could not be legislated away. By mid-afternoon, Anna's midnight reprisal had ignited a firestorm. Videos of her stealthy repaintings circulated on every social feed, each clip more dramatic than the last. A lone figure in a paint-splattered hoodie, defying an official edict under the cover of darkness. Within hours, Gaia artists, not crime, was trending across the city. Teenagers on scooters paused to photograph the mural. Office workers stepped from grey skyscrapers to snap selfies against the vibrant brick canvas. The mural's winding rivers and sunlit rooftops became the backdrop for impassioned declarations. Don't erase our voice. This is what progress looks like. Long live creativity. Local artists and students of the Art Institute rallied behind Anna's banner. A spontaneous flash mob formed in front of City Hall, members hoisting placards that read, "Creativity belongs to everyone, and colour is community." They chanted in unison, their voices echoing off marble pillars, "Save the wall! Save the art!" Journalists from the regional daily pressed microphones to the crowd, capturing tear-streaked faces speaking of hope and renewal. Call-in segments lit up the airwaves. One caller, an elderly woman whose grandson had painted over a drab alleyway with chalk flowers, tearfully thanked Anna for proving that even grey concrete could bloom with possibility. Simultaneously, a group of local business owners surprised everyone by printing posters of the mural in their shop windows. The owner of the corner cafe offered a free espresso to anyone who showed her printout, and the barista scrawled "Art Saves Lives" above the counter in chalk. An online fundraiser sprang up overnight, not to remove the mural, but to commission another one on a neighbouring wall. Within 24 hours, hundreds of pledges had poured in, from school teachers donating paychecks to retired mechanics offering their time as assistants. But not everyone cheered. A conservative community newsletter published an editorial lambasting Anna's unauthorized takeover of public property, accusing her of wasting city resources and encouraging lawlessness. Leaflets mirroring the council's demands rained from lampposts, warning that anyone caught preserving or assisting the mural faced fines. A small but vocal group of residents held a counter-protest in the very alley, brandishing brooms and buckets of white paint, ready to cover Anna's work under the council's directive. Caught between two roaring crowds, Anna felt both exhilarated and terrified. She spent the night before the 14-day deadline at her apartment, fielding interviews, drafting press releases, and poring over legal forums to understand her rights. Her phone vibrated constantly, messages of support from famous street artists she had worshipped from afar, texts from neighbours offering to guard the mural through the night, requests from podcasters who wanted her on their shows. She realised that her solitary act of defiance had transformed into a communal crusade. On the 7th day, a respected local journalist published a long feature titled "The Colours of Resistance," chronicling Anna's journey from anonymous vandal to symbol of civic pride. The piece framed her mural as a mirror reflecting the city's own potential. Fractured on the surface, but capable of breathtaking beauty when given a chance. The next morning's headlines asked not who would remove her work, but who would champion it. The mayor, caught off guard by the swell of public sentiment, found himself in a precarious position. Bow to popular will or enforce the letter of the law. As the deadline loomed, Anna stood before her mural surrounded by a growing human chain of supporters. Artists, students, cafe owners, curious passers-by, and even a few sympathetic council staffers, each linking arms in silent solidarity. The wall that had once inspired cold stares now pulsed with energy. The city's collective heartbeat made visible in a riot of colour and conviction. In that moment, Anna understood that true power lay not in mandates or paperwork, but in the unstoppable force of a community united behind a shared vision. Anna arrived at the back entrance of City Hall just after dusk, her heartbeat drumming in time with her footsteps on the marble steps. The official summons had given no hint of formality, only an invitation to an unofficial discussion in the mayor's office. She tugged her paint-splattered hoodie tighter around her shoulders and slipped inside through a side door marked Staff Only. The corridor beyond was dimly lit, the hush of the building settling around her like a velvet cloak. After a moment's hesitation, she followed the flicker of a single desk lamp under a door labeled Deputy Suite. The door stood slightly ajar. Inside, the young assistant to the mayor looked up from a spread of blueprints and city maps. He wore no suit jacket, just a crisp shirt with sleeves rolled to the elbow, and his dark hair fell in precise waves across his forehead. His name was Constantine, a name she had only seen in email headers until today. Anna, he greeted, voice low and earnest. He gestured toward a small table stacked with schematics of an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of downtown. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry it had to be like this. Secretive. The council's public stance makes it difficult to approach you through official channels. Anna sank into the lone chair, studying the plans before her. The warehouse loomed on the page as a hulking rectangle, its windows boarded and its brickwork pocked with time. Overhead sketches showed long interior walls stretching 50 feet, empty canvases for a new kind of public art. Constantine leaned forward, eyes bright in the lamplight. The mayor believes that art is vital to our city's identity, he said, but he can't risk political fallout by championing your mural in the open. At least not until public opinion shifts further. So this is my compromise, a private commission. You'll have free rein to paint the main hall of the old warehouse for the upcoming cultural festival. No council interference, no removal orders. Think of it as a trial. If your work there resonates, the mayor will publicly endorse you and your current mural can stay. Anna's breath caught. The warehouse was vast, larger than any surface she had ever painted. Fear and exhilaration collided in her chest. Why me? She asked, voice barely more than a whisper. Constantine offered a half smile. Because your mural sparked something real. The public debate. The solidarity. It proved you're not a vandal, but a visionary. The mayor watched the response closely. He wants to harness that energy. He tapped at a point on the blueprint. This north wall faces the main entrance. It's perfect for your signature style. Rivers, rooftops, a sunrise. But I'd like you to imagine something more. A tapestry of voices. Incorporate symbols of every neighborhood, every community that rallied behind you. The space should feel like it belongs to everyone. Anna leaned in, tracing the lines of the wall in the drawing. She could see the potential. The high ceiling, the exposed beams, the way light would stream through newly installed skylights. She pictured the first brushstroke, a ribbon of color unfurling across cement. I need complete freedom, she said, and support, materials, scaffolding, assistance, everything. Her voice gained strength as she realized the enormity of the opportunity. You'll have it, Constantine replied. He pushed a second set of papers across the table, a budget outline and contact information for city contractors. I'll coordinate with the festival committee to handle logistics. All I ask is your discretion until the unveiling. Anna closed her eyes for a moment, recalling the weeks of midnight painting, the council's scorn, the roar of public backing. This secret commission felt like redemption, and a chance to prove her vision on a grand scale. She opened her eyes and extended her hand. Let's do it, she said. They shook on it, the clap of their palms echoing softly in the otherwise silent room. As Anna gathered her thinks, Constantine stood and motioned her to a small side window. Through frosted glass, she could just make out the flicker of city lights, the hum of a metropolis readying itself for night. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. This is more than art, he said. It's a message. Our city belongs to its people, not just to those who legislate it. Anna nodded, heart swelling with determination. She left City Hall under a veil of secrecy, knowing that by dawn she would begin work on the warehouse wall that could change everything. In her mind, she already sketched the first lines of a river that would flow through every heart in the city, an unbreakable bond forged in paint and policy, in rebellion and reconciliation. The warehouse loomed before Anna like a sleeping giant, its red brick exterior streaked with years of graffiti and neglect. At dawn, she arrived with Constantine and a small crew of volunteers who had rallied behind her cause. Architecture students with bundles of chalk, retired carpenters wielding hammers, and two eager art school graduates carrying buckets of primer. The morning air smelled of masonry and fresh paint, and the first rays of sun cut through the dust motes, dancing in the cavernous loading bay. Inside, the space was cavernous, 2 stories high, with steel beams crisscrossing overhead like an industrial cathedral. Anna ran her hand along the coarse concrete wall and felt its cold, unyielding surface tremble under her touch. Volunteers erected scaffolding in neat tiers, the metallic structures rising until they nearly grazed the rafters. As they worked, Constantine flitted between them, checking off safety protocols and smoothing out logistical snarls. His quiet confidence giving Anna the freedom to focus on the only thing that mattered, the mural. She began by rolling on a coat of pale dove grey primer to erase decades of dirt and half-forgotten tags. The uniform colour felt surreal compared to the riot of hues on the city wall, but it was necessary, a blank page waiting for a story. By late morning, the primer had dried and Anna stepped back to survey the expanse. She unrolled her sketches. A flowing river of cobalt and teal, city rooftops in terracotta and charcoal, a rising sun crafted from concentric circles of gold and rose. But here inside these walls, she would weave in the faces and symbols of every neighbourhood that had lent its voice to her cause. The clock tower from the old quarter, the elm leaf from Green Park, the ship's prow from Harbour View, volunteers scattered across the floor, dipping brushes into trays of vivid pigment and passing canisters of spray paint along lengthening rows of plywood platforms. Anna climbed onto the lowest tier of scaffolding, art pounding with a thrill of scale. Her first stroke was a sweeping arc of ultramarine, the paint gliding across concrete with a satisfying hiss. Each movement felt both precise and liberating. Here she was, in a space sanctioned by the very office that had once condemned her, transforming a forgotten structure into a living testament of community. As the day wore on, the warehouse filled with a hum of creation. A student perched high above flattened out a stencil of the elm leaf, misting its silhouette in forest green. 2 carpenters reinforced a support beam with a silhouette of the clock tower cut from plywood, anchoring it to the wall before Anna painted its intricate hands. Music floated through the rafters, an impromptu playlist compiled by volunteers, from soulful ballads to driving beats, matching the rhythm of brushes, rollers, and laughter. For Anna, each echo in that cavernous room was proof that art could unite strangers in a shared vision. By late afternoon, the outline was complete. Anna stood back on a raised platform and called for a break. The mural stretched before her, a tapestry of rivers and rooftops threaded with symbols that spoke of every corner of the city. She watched as Constantine snapped photos, his face lit by pride and something deeper. Relief that the covert project had unfolded without a hitch. Sweat beaded on her brow, but fatigue was eclipsed by exhilaration. She felt the kind of triumph that only comes when the impossible becomes real. Over the next 2 days, she and her team refined details, faces emerging from the riverbanks to represent diverse citizens, rays of sunlight woven with hints of metallic gold dust, tiny inscriptions of local street names hidden among the rooftops. Word of mouth spread quietly. A late-night talk show host teased a secret mural. Civic bloggers whispered of an art rebellion in the making. Yet the wider city remained blissfully unaware, locked out by the fortress of scaffolding and secrecy. On the eve of the festival, Anna climbed the higher scaffold as dusk settled, her brush poised above the final section of a wall. The warehouse was hushed, lit by a few work lamps, and the glow of the setting sun filtering through dusty windows. With a single decisive stroke, she painted a soaring silhouette of the city skyline, linking every neighborhood in one continuous, unbroken line. She stepped back, heart full, as the mural, once a hidden secret, stood ready to reveal itself to the world. In that quiet moment, Anna realized she had not only painted on a wall, but had inscribed a hope and reconciliation into the fabric of her city. The mayor's clandestine commission had given her the chance to speak for thousands. Now, on the threshold of morning, she awaited the moment when light would spill in and the hidden canvas would become an open testament to what art and a little courage could achieve together. The morning of the cultural festival dawned clear and bright, the sunlight streaming through newly installed skylights in the old warehouse and illuminating Anna's hidden masterpiece for the first time. As she arrived before the gates opened, her heart pounded with anticipation. Volunteers in festival t-shirts stood at the entrance, handing out programs printed with a small reproduction of her mural and the title Rivers of Renewal. A soft murmur of excitement rose from the growing crowd eager to see what had been whispered about in secret for days. Inside, the cavernous hall had been transformed into a vibrant celebration of community and art. Long tables displayed sculptures, installations, and interactive stations where visitors could leave their own marks on temporary canvases. But every eye was drawn to the vast wall behind the main stage. Anna's mural, a tapestry of flowing rivers, intertwined rooftops, and golden sunbeams, punctuated by symbols from every neighborhood in the city. The colors glowed with fresh intensity, and faint trails of gold dust in the paint caught the light like living embers. As the festival organizers took their places on the stage, Konstantin stepped forward to introduce Anna. His voice carried easily across the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "what you see before you is not just a painting, but a manifesto of hope." When the city told Anna to erase her vision, she refused. And today, thanks to a courageous mayor who believes in art's power to unite us, we stand witness to a new chapter in our city's history. A hush fell as Anna joined them, cheeks flushed with pride and nerves. The mayor, who had arrived quietly and worn no official sash, took the microphone next. He spoke of the city's heritage, its struggles to balance preservation and progress, and how Anna's work had reminded everyone that beauty and community belong to each other. "This mural," he said, "speaks for all of us. Our waterways, our rooftops, our sunrise after years of waiting. Anna has given this city its soul back." When the mayor stepped aside and Anna was invited to address the crowd, she drew in a deep breath. Her voice was steady as she thanked everyone, not just for their support, but for demonstrating that art can be the spark that lights even the darkest corners. She spoke of late nights spent under lamplight, the council's intimidation, and the solidarity of neighbors who refused to let her work be erased. Tears glinted in her eyes as she concluded, "This mural belongs to you all. It belongs to every voice that refused silence." Applause crashed over her like a wave. Cameras flashed as Anna and the mayor walked together along the mural's length, pointing out hidden details. The elm leaf, the clock tower, the ship's prow, each symbol a shared story of neighborhood pride. Children pressed their noses against the wall, tracing lines with their fingers. Elders wiped tears and nodded. Reporters jostled for quotes, and radio hosts broadcast live from the scene. By afternoon, social media exploded. Photos of Anna standing before her mural, arms outstretched, circulated with captions like "City's heroine" and "Art that changed everything." Local news anchors declared her the unofficial face of the festival, and art blogs hailed the project as a turning point in civic engagement. The warehouse, once anonymous and abandoned, became the city's newest destination, a living landmark that visitors would seek out long after the festival ended. That evening, as lanterns glowed and a local jazz trio played beneath the mural, Anna slipped away for a moment to stand alone before her creation. The roar buzzed around her, but she closed her eyes and let the sounds fade. In the stillness, she felt the weight of every brushstroke, the echoes of every voice that had supported her, and the knowledge that her dream had grown far beyond her own ambition. This mural would remain as proof that art can transform not only walls, but the hearts of an entire city. Years later, new murals inspired by Anna's vision began to appear on walls elsewhere, each one bearing the unmistakable influence of her style. Art students cited her as their muse. City tours listed her mural as a must-see attraction. In local vernacular, to paint your story became shorthand for claiming one's place in the community. Anna's name had become the stuff of legend, not because she had defied the city council, but because she had demonstrated that when one person stands by their vision, an entire city can learn to stand with them.